aside. Those IRS agents are still out there running loose in this country. They are out there, and when they're out there doing their thing, this monster is loose. This monster is out there terrorizing more people because the grand jury in particular in that location. Now, this was on national television, these hearings before the Congressional Oversight Committee. The grand jury, federal grand jury in that area, it was their responsibility. They should have immediately subpoenaed the district director of the Internal Revenue Service. They should have gotten the names of the IRS agents that were responsible. And they should have investigated, and they should have indicted, and those people should have gone to jail. But the grand jury was not functioning. You can talk about the Federal Reserve Bank scam and all of those different scams out there in government, but until we get these registered voters out there to understand their power, their responsibility, their duty on the grand juries, we are not going to see the solutions. We're not going to see the change that we must see. There is a widow woman in North Carolina. Her husband was murdered by the government, agents of the government, and they are free. They are not being prosecuted because Joe Sixpack, sitting on the grand jury, his wife sitting on the grand jury, does not understand her responsibility or her duty. They do not understand what the grand jury is all about because they have never been taught. The government doesn't want you to know. The IRS doesn't want you to know. The IRS, they do not want you to know the truth. Now, I have a copy of one of their manuals. This is an IRS manual that has been out a number of years. This is just a copy of it. In the very beginning of it, there's a foreword. The foreword for this manual was written by the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. And here's what he says in the foreword, the very first line. Our tax system is based on individual self-assessment and voluntary compliance. Voluntary compliance? We all know what the word voluntary means. But people are not volunteering in this country to file income tax returns. They are filing because of coercion. They're filing because of fear. They're filing because we have a government that has to use fear and intimidation to be able to function. Now, here's the part that really bothered me the most when I first read this. The last paragraph. The material contained in this handbook is confidential in character. It must not, under any circumstances, be made available to persons outside of the service. This is a public servant, ladies and gentlemen, who is saying, well, I'm going to hide something from my masters. I'm going to hide something. I'm going to keep my master in the dark. What is this? This is an unfaithful servant, isn't it? This is an employee who should not be your employee. This is an employee that should be fired because this employee is violating your trust and your confidence. Now, why would they say that this book should not get into the hands of anyone outside of the IRS? This is what it says in this one section, books and records of an individual. An individual taxpayer may refuse to exhibit his books and records for examination on the ground that compelling him to do so might violate his right against illegal search and seizure under the Fifth Amendment. No, I got that wrong. I got on the wrong line. That compelling him to do so might violate his right against self-incrimination under the Fifth Amendment and constitute an illegal search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment. What is this? This is the Fourth and Fifth Amendment they're talking about. That's part of our great Bill of Rights, isn't it? I just turned the page here, and here's a section on constitutional law. It says constitutional protections are provided in the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments. They know. They don't want us to know, do they? We have to communicate with Joe Sixpack out here. We have to get to him and educate him, inform him, get the truth to him. The IRS does not want anyone outside of the service to see this book, because this book has the truth in it. And they cannot function if you know the truth. Now, instead of them giving you this little manual to read with your income tax return, your 1040, they give you a little pamphlet, don't they, a little booklet. Every year they send out the 1040s, and they give every taxpayer this little booklet of instructions. Now, they want you to read that. The reason they want you to read that is because they are not telling you the truth in that pamphlet. This one has the truth, so they don't want you to read it. So with that, we'll take that quick break here for a tape change, and we'll go on from there. I have talked about this. Now I'm going to talk on this side over here with my visual aid over here. I believe that most Americans will agree with me that our tax-consuming public servants lied to us about Pearl Harbor. I think most Americans would agree that they lied to us about Korea. They lied about Vietnam. They didn't tell us the truth about the energy shortage. They didn't tell us the truth. They haven't told us the truth about Social Security. We never had all of the covers taken off of the Watergate scandal. We were never told the truth about the Kennedy assassination. And I am absolutely convinced that if we go back and check the record, we will find that our public servants, our tax-consuming public servants, have not told us the truth on any major story or happening in this century. Go back to 1900 and start in 1900 and check the major stories that have happened, and I believe that if you will research those stories, you will find that the American people were not told the truth. Now, that's a pretty poor track record for truth. Now,